Romford, London, England. On the 27th of October 1974, John Avis, 29, and his wife Elaine, 25, and their 3 children, Kevin, Karen and Stuart, had been visiting relatives at nearby Harold Hill in Romford in East London, UK. They left their relative's house at 9:50 p.m, as there was a TV program John wanted to see, which was due to start at 10:20 p.m. The drive to their home in Aveley should have taken them 30 minutes. Karen and Stuart were asleep, but 7-year-old Kevin was awake and saw a blue oval light travelling alongside the car. As they approached Aveley, the light passed in front of the car, then vanished. It was around 10 p.m. when things started to get weird. All noise inside the car seemed to have stopped, and the car radio began to smoke. Then a green mist enveloped the car as they continued to drive, before things appeared to return to normal. When they arrived home, John stayed in the car to fix the radio, and Elaine took the children indoors to put them to bed. She was shocked to find that it was now 1 a.m. The following day, the family were extremely tired, but decided to ignore what had happened to them on this strange journey home. However, over the next few months, their lives would take an unexpected turn. Shortly before Christmas, John Avis had a nervous breakdown, which led him to give up his job. But other strange anomalies started to affect the family, where they were now repulsed by the smell of meat and turned vegetarian. John, who had previously been a heavy smoker, abruptly stopped smoking. Then unusual incidents started to happen around their home, where objects started to disappear from the house. At around midnight, a loud droning noise could be heard along with strange clicking noises that could be heard in some of the rooms. Their telephone started to make strange clicking noises as if it was being tapped by someone. On another occasion, one of the children had a terrifying experience where they claimed that a man dressed like a clown was standing beside their bed. 2.5 years later, in the middle of 1977, the family had had enough and decided to get some answers to the strange events which had begun on that unusual October night in 1974. They contacted UFO investigators Andy Collins and Barry King. The couple told the investigators what had happened on October the 27th, 1974, and ever since that night had experienced weird, vivid dreams that involved strange-looking beings and what looked to be hospital operating theatres. John and Elaine decided to undergo hypnosis, and what they described revealed what thousands of other abductees had also experienced, and was a classic textbook alien abduction scenario. Whilst on hypnosis, they explained how their car had been pulled upwards by a beam of light towards a strange craft, and when they were aboard the craft, they were medically examined by what they described as 4-feet-high creatures that resembled birds. They also observed other beings that were taller and wore one-piece suits and balaclava-style helmets. These beings appeared to be in charge of everything aboard the spacecraft. The following story appears to have been a classic UFO abduction, along with the strange incidents around their home. Many abductees claim to have experienced poltergeist activity afterwards. John Avis later admitted that this was not the first time that he had experienced something strange whilst driving, where one night in 1968 he observed what he believed was a UFO in the sky. Was he also abducted on that occasion, but had not realised it? Blackbrook Farm, South Yorkshire, England. One evening in early 1979, Joyce Bond was watching television in her family's 200-year-old farmhouse called Blackbrook in South Yorkshire in northern England. Joyce had 3 daughters, Laura 23, Jane 14 and Susan 10. It was 7:30 p.m. when her phone started ringing and a friend, Sandra Streech, was on the line. Sandra only lived about a quarter of a mile away. Her friend was calling because she and her mother had been observing strange lights in the sky, which had been circling above Blackbrook Farm. The lights appeared to be silent as they could hear no aircraft noise, yet they were making her dogs bark. But at the same time, Joyce's dogs were silent. Joyce and her daughters looked out of the window and saw a large red light hovering over their field. A neighbour had told her that there were also lights above her house, so Joyce went outside to investigate and saw a huge object directly above the stables. She had an eerie feeling that the object was watching them. The object was covered in flashing lights, and for a second she found them mesmerizing, before quickly grabbing her daughters and running back inside the house. Joyce was so terrified that she locked all of the doors and switched off the lights. In a panicked state, she tried to escape through a small window before being pulled back inside. She then phoned her husband to come home. The family then decided to make a more organised attempt to escape by fleeing to a neighbour's house that was about 200 yards away. But something tried to stop them, and they ran back inside. When her husband reached the village, he was immediately stopped at a police roadblock and was told there had been a traffic accident. As Mr. Bond looked up into the sky, he could see aircraft from the nearby Air Force base at RAF Finningley. He thought it strange as the aircraft from the base did not normally fly at night. He met a neighbour from a nearby farm who told him that he'd witnessed a UFO in the skies. He then met up with some friends who told him that they lived 2 miles from their house, where they described seeing a bright red light in the sky around 9 p.m. Now concerned, he decided to take an alternative route home, and as he got close to his farm, he could see that the top of their fence was on fire. Over the following days, he checked the local papers, but found nothing had been written about a road accident. A few years after the terrifying event, Joyce had always felt that they had somehow lost time and became disturbed. In 1994, they decided to contact UFO investigators who suggested they undergo hypnosis. The family would then regress back to the incident, but the session was not overly successful as the family feared what the hypnosis session may uncover. However, what they were able to find out was that Jane recalled floating above the farm and seeing bright lights before being manhandled by strange beings. The session proved to be so stressful for Jane that her hair started to fall out. The UFO investigators kept in regular contact with the family, and Jane and her daughters reported having strange dreams that involved small grey creatures with large black eyes. The family also reported other strange dreams where they were paralysed or naked in empty metal rooms. The girls, now much older, continued to describe having dreams that were flying or being sucked up into the sky above Blackbrook Farm, even though they no longer lived there. Laura would often dream of the UFO just as she fell asleep, and then seeing a door in the spaceship, but quickly woke up in fear of what may happen next. They all had the impression that Blackbrook Farm was haunted and would occasionally witness a floating white figure, which they did not initially associate with UFOs. One night in 1990 at the farm, Laura witnessed a glowing white apparition approach the back door, which frightened their dog. She switched off all of the lights and hurried upstairs to bed. That night she believed she'd been assaulted by an alien, and the following morning the dog was too scared to go outside. On another occasion, Mr. Bond believed he saw a ghost, and from 1979 the family believed the farm had a poltergeist. At the time, the girls were frightened to stay at the farm, and all claimed to have had strange experiences of their own. Joyce also claimed to have felt a presence in the bedroom at night and reported hearing laughter and sniffing along with banging on the back door when nobody was there. On one occasion, her earring was pulled by someone or something she could not see. In 1992, she saw their dog levitate. Her daughters had the waking sensation of being paralysed, or some invisible force in the bedroom held them down. When their daughters eventually left home, strange things continued to happen in their own homes, where they would often hear strange voices and lights. The family feared that the poltergeist activity would pass down to their grandchildren in their homes. The Bonds also claimed that they were visited by men in black, who intimidated them to ensure that the alien abductions were kept secret. Could it be that the Bond family were regularly visited by aliens, was at the same time being haunted by ghostly visitations, or was everything related to the aliens? If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit like. It really helps to keep the channel growing. And if you're new here, subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. We've got lots of strange and fascinating stories coming up, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. While as humans, our future definitely lies in the stars, so too may our past, our origins. Although ruled out by most mainstream scientists, some theories that hybrid reproduction or extraterrestrials interbreeding with humans has been happening for millennia. Some believe that life on Earth was seeded as a result of intelligent intervention by superior alien species millions of years ago. Molecular biophysicist Francis Crick has doubted that human life could evolve on Earth without some kind of what he called directed panspermia, that is, the introduction of alien species to the world via space travel. And Professor Paul Davies suggests that some sort of alien pattern may be encoded in our junk DNA. Humans may have originated in hybrid reproduction by these various species. Here are 3 perspectives on human-alien hybrids in the first of our series. Number 3. Michael Wolff. Dr. Michael Wolff was a government scientist with above top security clearance, employed by the National Security Council during the 1990s on ultra-classified projects researching extraterrestrials. He worked extensively on projects at Area 51 and other locations before his untimely passing from cancer in 2000. However, one of his many revelations before his death was that even last century, government scientists had secretly mapped the entire human genome, and that he had uncovered an extraterrestrial marker gene in some human genetic samples, including his own. He described these hybrid ET human beings as the in-between individuals created by extraterrestrial interference with the parents' genetic material prior to birth. He also claimed that he had been involved in government projects attempting to replicate birth. He also claimed that he had been involved in government projects attempting to replicate extraterrestrial genetic engineering, thereby creating ET human hybrids. He even explained mysterious cattle mutilations by extraterrestrials as attempts to harvest tissue to prepare organelles to adapt to human bodies by filtering out polluting human-made particles. He described the in-betweens as helping to integrate these organelles or cell components. In his book The Catchers of Heaven, Wolff describes an ultra-secret project conducted by the Department of Defense for the purpose of genetically cloning a hybrid human being who could be duplicated as the perfect soldier, unquestioningly obeying orders to kill and destroy. Astonishingly, Wolff reports that the clone was born with an intuitive moral compass and respect for all life forms, what Wolff interpreted as a soul. As a test of his compliance, the clone was ordered to kill a dog. When he refused to do so, the project officer determined the experiment a failure and ordered the clone terminated. Wolff claims that in dismay at this decision, he then acted to blow up the building in which the project was housed and secretly assist the clone to escape to an independent life in the community, where hopefully he still lives anonymously. Number 2. Lisa. UFO researcher Luigi Venditelli has interviewed French-Canadian woman Lisa, who claims to be a hybrid. She was told by a mother that in 1975, when 8 months pregnant with a boy, she was one evening lying on her bed when she suddenly became paralyzed. She then saw a metallic object coming through the wall and turned to see 2 tiny grey creatures with big heads and black eyes. The mother asked, "Who are you?" And although not communicating verbally, the beings had a conversation in her head, one saying, "She's not ready yet," and the other said, "Yes, she is." The frightened mother begged them to leave, saying that her other children were in the house and that she did not want to do anything they asked. The metallic object then receded into the wall, and the creatures were no longer there. She later gave birth to a son, and the doctor who had seen her through the pregnancy and always told her that she was pregnant with a single baby left the room. But soon after this, the nurse started screaming, "There's another baby!" And the doctor returned saying, "That's impossible," shocking everyone, including herself. Her mother then gave birth to Lisa. Lisa is 6'3" tall, blonde, and wears brown contact lenses because her eyes are intensely green. She says that one has never felt at home on this planet, but feels that she and many other fellow hybrids have a reason for being here, but which she does not specifically know. However, she feels that they are here to change things and that it is a very heavy burden to bear. She also says that she knows she has experienced another life as a lizard and remembers her hands touching the ground as she walked. Lisa's mother says that she's had another abduction during Lisa's teenage years. She suddenly awoke in a large round room where she was talking to a red-headed humanoid creature wearing a doctor's coat with a medical symbol. He was surrounded by many tiny vials of medicine and told her that it was all the medication needed to cure humanity, but they would not be giving it to us because you're not meant to be sick. Number 1. Peter Curry. It is 26 years since Peter Curry had his extraordinary experience of alien abduction, which provided concrete evidence of alien hybrid genetics. Peter Curry had experienced other incidents of alien abduction during his life, but the events of July the 23rd, 1992 were devastating. At 7 a.m, Peter had dropped off his wife at a train station and returned to their home in suburban Sydney, Australia, feeling unwell. He slept for a short time in his bed, but awoke with a start when he felt movement and saw two humanoid women kneeling on the end of his bed. Both were naked, one blonde or Nordic and the other Asian, but both with strange aspects of their appearance. The Nordic woman had huge eyes and an elongated pointy chin and wispy hair which was puffed up like fairy floss. The Asian woman had dark brown skin and almost completely black eyes, her hair in a page boy style. They seemed to be communicating telepathically. The Nordic woman, who seemed very tall and strong, appearing to instruct the Asian woman. 3 times she grasped Curry's head and pulled it towards her, but in the struggle he bit her and swallowed a bit of her skin, noticing that there was no blood or pain reaction from her. As he collapsed coughing, the woman seemed to be communicating that the encounter had not gone according to plan, and a few seconds later they had disappeared. Curry went to get a glass of water in the bathroom, and on trying to relieve himself was shocked to find fine blonde hair wrapped tightly around his member or his private part. Later DNA investigation of the hair shaft sample found it to be from someone who was biologically close to the human being, but from one of the rarest lineages known. The bizarre anomaly found was that although the hair is blonde, it combines a rare Chinese Mongoloidal racial type of mitochondrial DNA with a rare Basque Gaelic type DNA. While coming from a tall blonde female, it was deduced that the hair donor did not require any hair or skin pigmentation as protection from sun's rays. The conclusion was that the so-called donor had a very unusual hybrid DNA profiles, which are massively removed from the human genetic mainstream. An additional feature, the CCR5 deletion factor, meant that these beings are able to carry out a sexual hybrid program with protection from diseases such as HIV and smallpox. Bill Chalker, coordinator of the UFO Investigation Centre in Sydney, has documented forensic DNA evidence of alien abduction in his 2005 book Hair of the Alien. While the hair shows humid hybrid DNA, it is also suggestive of an alien intervention in the donor's creation. It has led to biochemical research around a hypothesis of intelligent alien intervention in the evolution of human DNA, named the alien DNA paradigm. North America has a long written and oral history of its beginnings, as part of what Europeans called the New World. From the arrival of the English Pilgrims to the growth of a nation which would become the United States, its evolution is already a complex and intriguing narrative. It is also one that abounds with accounts of unexplained sightings of airborne objects, long before human flight development sent anything mechanical into the skies. Even more strange, some of these early reports suggested extraterrestrial intervention that influenced the course of history and the development of the nation. It appears that UFOs and their advanced occupants may have taken an interest in North America, not only since its European occupation, but a long time before that, according to accounts of the Native American tribes. In the first of our series, here are 5 otherworldly sightings recorded from the early years of the United States. Number 5. George Washington, 1777. Anthony Sherman was a soldier located at Valley Forge during a bitter winter confrontation with the British. He later claimed that George Washington had disclosed to him that he had nightly visits from green-skinned warriors who were helping him. The green visitors were providing Washington with strategic intelligence about British troop positions and advised him the best position for him to advance from. Researcher and author Quentin Bird claims to have accessed Washington's war diary and believes his personal accounts documented alien intervention. Washington also wrote that the visitors lived in a round glowing globe. It has previously been thought that his regular advisors were Native Americans wearing green war paint, and that their home was a round tent of animal skins which glowed at night. However, there are also diary references to the globe hovering, moving location, and at times disappearing. While Washington believes that he was receiving the wise observations and advice of Native American warriors, Bird now suggests that he was conferring with extraterrestrials, who may have even provided some advanced technology to assist the battle-weary and disheartened troops to victory. Number 4. Thomas Jefferson, 1800. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson, then Vice President of the United States, was informed of a mysterious and astounding sighting in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A reputable scientist called William Dunbar and others had witnessed a luminous flying object fitting the description of a supersonic aerial craft above them. It was described as the size of a house, 17 to 80 feet long, and the colour of the sun near the horizon, that is, crimson red. It rapidly made its way overhead with a flat trajectory from the southwest to the northeast, while the ground underneath it lit up like sunbeams while emitting an intense heat. Jefferson recorded that immediately after it disappeared in the northeast, a violent rustling noise was heard, and in a few seconds, a tremendous crash, with a shock like an earthquake. The area, when searched, revealed annihilated vegetation and scorched earth. The description of the flying object does not fit that of a meteorite, and now some suggest that Jefferson was reporting the phenomenon of breaking the sound barrier, something unknown at that time. Number 3. War of 1812. The year of 1814, following 2 years of armed conflict in the so-called Second War of Independence, saw the demoralised American side staring down a very decisive loss to the British. In a devastating incursion on US sovereignty, British soldiers invaded Washington, D.C., setting fire to the Capitol building, Treasury, the White House, which was then called the Presidential Mansion, and many other government buildings. As President Madison, the military and the government officials fled the Capitol, the fires grew and spread, stoked by the extremely hot and dry August weather, and continuing stocks of fuel added by the invaders. As despairing American troops and citizens looked on, their city's great buildings went up in flames. However, they were witness to a sudden miracle when a dramatic change in the weather conditions brought storm clouds and a torrential downpour of heavy rain. The thunderstorm had the power of a hurricane and was immediately followed by the sudden formation of a tornado, which was seen to head straight for the British occupation on Capitol Hill. So heavy was the lashing rain that the flames were soon extinguished, and the invaders retreated immediately. These troops, who were reluctant to do so, were left to their fate in the freak weather event, which had marked the crucial turning point in the conflict and became known as the storm that saved Washington. As tornadoes are virtually unknown in Washington, D.C., some retrospectively attribute the incident to the work of supernatural forces, whether divine or an extraterrestrial intervention. Number 2, 1865, James Lumley. Several newspapers of the day publicised the experience of James Lumley, an elderly Montana fur trapper who witnessed an unfamiliar airborne object in the summer sky. He described the strange craft as a bright luminous body in the heavens, which was plainly visible for around 5 seconds before suddenly heading east and exploding. Another explosion was heard as it came crashing to the ground, appearing to discharge a strong wind like a tornado, which left the air smelling of sulphur. The next day, after trudging for 2 miles, Lumley found a cleared path in the forest, by which he managed to track down the wreckage and inspect it up close. Lumley found the object on the side of a mountain and later reported that it had been an immense body which had broken into several pieces and felt like stone to the touch. Intriguingly, the pieces showed strange symbols, which were obviously handcrafted and looked like hieroglyphics. There was also what looked like broken glass around the area, as well as a dark liquid which Lumley surmised had come from inside the UFO. The newspaper accounts certainly helped to popularise the notion of extraterrestrial visitors, pointing out that astronomers had long held that it is probable the heavenly bodies are inhabited. As no signs of extinguished life was found, they also theorised that aliens may have ended up wandering around Montana. Number 1, 1897, Aurora, Texas. Aurora, Texas had its own UFO crash 50 years before Roswell. During the years 1896 and 1897, there were many sightings of a mysterious cigar-shaped airship across the United States. More astonishingly, it was finally reported in the April 19, 1897 issue of the Daily Morning News that a strange metallic craft had come hurtling out of the sky over Aurora early one evening. The object eventually crashed into a windmill on the land of a local judge, J.S. Proctor, and was found to contain a deceased alien creature who was assumed to be the pilot, and described as not of this world. The news article went on to say that papers found on his person, evidently the records of his travels, are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and could not be deciphered. The pilot was buried with full Christian rites and buried in the nearby Aurora Cemetery under an unmarked stone. Despite allegations by some of the story being a publicity stunt in order to revive the dying economy of Aurora, questions remain unanswered, such as the numerous sightings of a flying craft 7 years before the Wright brothers took to the air, and testimonies from the then children of eyewitnesses. In addition, the metal alloy and its method of processing found to have been used in the manufacture of the craft indicated extraterrestrial technology. In the 1970s, journalist Bill Case undertook an investigation and claimed to have found the burial site in the Aurora Cemetery. However, while he was in the process of applying for rights to exhume the grave, the stone marker and what was buried beneath it mysteriously disappeared overnight. The marker was later placed by the Texas Historical Commission, referring to the incident as legend, but Case loudly voiced the opinion that the government had removed all evidence of the alien remains.